Well, Greg, we're recording, so welcome to the podcast. When I went through actually your to start your Instagram, like you have a lot of auditions posted, which some actors actually don't do. They don't post their auditions on Instagram. And when you said that you had only been doing this for the better part of about 2 years, is that correct?
Not even basically 2 years and 3 weeks.
2 years and 3 weeks. Okay. Um, I found your range surprising, and there wasn't a bad audition. I mean, granted, it was probably like not the first take. No actor has a necessarily always has the great first take, but you had a wide range. And you weren't just playing a mobster every time, which is something you've done before, but you had a Shakespeare monologue. You played, you had a lot of different things, and I thought they were all very good, to be perfectly frank. And so I thought it'd be interesting to meet you, get to hear your experiences, because even though you've only been doing this for about 2 years and just barely 2 years, you've gotten contracts with. You've been in a Nike commercial. You've started doing some features. I noticed. Um, Go ahead and just tell me how you got started and why you decided to get started at this age and just recently.
Well, first, that was very kind of you for saying the auditions are not all terrible. And the posting them on Instagram thing, it's kind of controversial and all. I won't post anything that's like NDA or not out yet, or like that I can't post. But I do post some of the stuff. And the truth is, most of them you don't book. I mean, I do so many auditions, and and most of them I don't. I don't book. But how this happened, I mean, I'll tell you. I don't always. I'm not always quite frank about it with people because sometimes I don't want to be judged. I'm talking to somebody who went to Juilliard and this and that and NYU and
Mm-hmm.
But I just like 2 years ago. Um, mm, my life was kind of in not such a good place. I was not so happy with some things. I was working at a business I wasn't happy with, and I was kind of lost, I guess, and I just turned 30. Um, and I'd gone through some stuff, and I woke, and, I had this thought before, oh, maybe I try acting and stuff. And, you know, um, and I kind of liked acting when I was younger, but I thought, no, like I got to play football. I got to do this. That's, kind of for, uh, you know, I was kind of an idiot, kind of ignorant, kind of whatever. I liked Broadway, but and then I met this actress at my friend's Super Bowl party. Oh man, she's a great actress. She's Emily Mead. She's on the Penguin now. She plays the younger version of the mom, and she's also famous for her role on The Deuce. And I met her at this party. She does, a couple of years ago. I was like, "What do you do?" She's like, "I'm an actress." I was like, "Yeah, right." Like, "What do you do?" Like, "What do you do?" She's like, "No,
You
no,
make
no, I'm an
coffee.
actor." Yeah, no, no, but even not just that. I just didn't think that like you could do that as a job. You know, like the idea, and that kind of stuck in my mind as a little bit of a seed. And I started meeting some other people, and then I just woke up one day and I was like, my wife Sarah, I was like, "Baby, I'm gonna be an actor." She's like, "Okay, Greg, like go the fuck to bed, like you're out of your mind." And then the next day I got up, I took a super ugly selfie of myself, and I put it on Backstage, and like 5 days later, I was a background actor on a feature SAG film, and got to like meet the principal actors and talk to the directors. This German guy named Uwe Ball. He's a
Hmm.
pretty famous director in Germany. He was making this movie called First Shift, and I caught the bug, man. I saw the lights, the cameras, the actors, the costumes, the props, the police there, the fake cop cars, and I was like, holy moly, this is a real thing.
Jeez. Well, so you hadn't acting hadn't even popped into your head up until that point.
A little bit, but just in a fantasy kind of like, hey, Leo's doing that.
It
I
was
could
right
do
up there
that.
with like astronaut and president.
Yeah, yeah. But like, it's a lot more attainable than people think. Now, and then, but from that point onward, I started working really hard, reading books, taking acting classes, studying the different acting techniques, acting every day, writing screenplays. Like, I my wife is kind of like, hey, like, you got to make money. Like, we're not like 18, you know, you're 30 years old. We have a kid, you know, and another one on the way. I have two kids right now and a third on the way. And that's the best thing in my life. And so I was like, all right, like, I'm going to do the fast track, like whatever somebody gets at NYU in a 6-year graduate and undergraduate, I'm going to do that right away
Okay.
by myself.
Was there a particular skill that you had to pick up early on that you recognized that you needed to work on immediately in order to actually just start booking jobs?
Yes. So, I mean, I think the first thing is like, what is acting? You know, to me, I was like, all right, uh, The Departed, right? You know, if somebody says do a scene from The Departed, the sniffling rat Jack Nicholson scene, you know, I would do an impression of that, you
Mm.
know, or I I didn't really know what acting was. I met my first acting teacher, who I still talk to, is a guy named Daniel Cosgrove. He's a fantastic actor. He was the bad guy in the first season of You on Netflix. He's was the bad guy in Van Wilder back in the day. He's on General Hospital right now, and he uses the sort of, I guess it's sort of a Meisner based definition, is that acting is behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. So when I
Mm.
first came into his class, I was like doing impressions. He's like, "No, Greg, like this is you. This is Greg. I want to see Greg. I want to see Greg in this situation. How would you be?" And like, really, no bullshit, not pretending. Like, how would you be? And so it took me a while to get comfortable in my own skin and be like, how do I take all these life experiences I've had, good and bad? How do I take what I know about acting? How do I act honestly? And the listening part is still the part, you know, which is a huge part of Meisner, is listening. And that is such an important thing. I mean, the best acting to me is between your lines, when you're listening to the other person. Can you really be present? Can you hear what they're saying? Can you respond truthfully, not just spit your lines out? It's not like, okay, he said orange, so that's my cue to say black. It's like, no, how did he say orange? Why did he say orange? You know, what's he giving you? Because if you're not really listening, then you're not acting, you're just being a parrot.
Yeah. Did you find it at first difficult to balance living in the moment and being present in the scene, and then also in the back of your mind, that critical thinking part of like, okay, this is the dialogue I memorized. All right, and now I got to spit that out because there's a weird dichotomy that goes on there.
Totally, totally. I think the thing that really helped me out is once you know your lines front to back, back to front, then you can free yourself up to live in the moment. Know your lines, and then you can live in the moment and respond and listen to your scene partners. You know,
Mm.
so then that more intellectual part of trying to know your lines and, you know, act how I'm supposed to act, no, that can fade away because you know your lines. You just have to respond appropriately. If your girlfriend on, you know, playing your girlfriend, your scene partner is crying, you know, you should be internalizing her feelings and thinking about how that makes you feel and how she feels, not thinking about what I'm going to say next, because it should just come. And if you know your lines, you can get there. And it's not easy. But I remember one of the first times I was doing this, I was doing a scene from Silence of the Lambs, and I was talk this girl I'm friends with, Krista, is a great actress. She was being Clarice, you know, and I was being Hannibal
Hmm.
Lecter. And obviously, I ain't no Anthony Hopkins. Nobody is. He's
Mm.
one of my heroes. But I knew the lines really well, and I was staring at her and just kind of like taking her in and saying, you know, the lines about, you know, her cheap shoes and her nice bag and all this creepy stuff. And I had to snap out of it to come back when I was done. And I realized, oh my God, that was acting. Like I was really there. Like I
Can you
was in the
describe to me that
moment
rush
fully.
that you get from acting?
So I think there's two different kinds of rushes. Like for me, I get the rush, like being on set, right? And the lights, camera, director says action, it's your close up, it's your whatever, it's your big scene. That's a rush. That's like its own thing. Okay. Like you got 50 people on set, executives, whatever, looking at you. You got to do your thing. That's a rush. And it's a lot of pressure. And it feels really good to get it right. Um, but then this other rush I'm talking about is like you're not every time you act, you're not fully in it. I don't know, maybe Daniel Day-Lewis is because he's a god, whatever.
Hmm.
But most actors, it's not every time that it's like, oh my God, I was just really in it. Everything disappeared, and me and this guy that I'm arguing with in a scene, we're really arguing, and we're really looking at each other, really feeling each other. And you feel it. You don't feel it during it because you're in it, but right when they say cut, you're like, whoa, where was I?
Hmm.
And you get the rush. It's like, whoa, it's a high, man. And
Do you
I
think there's
love.
a correlation between that and like the way you feel as a kid when you're playing pretend, and then like mom calls you in from like playing, with whoever, whatever your activity you're doing, and then suddenly you're like, oh, well now I got to exit this world.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I never thought about that, but I am studying psychology. I'm doing a lot, but I'm getting a master's degree at night in
Okay,
in
sweet.
addiction and mental health counseling, and I get my master's. Uh, and interesting when I'm helping people, I talk to them about like the innocence of childhood and get how they're born good and they're born with all this imagination and stuff and all this happiness and joy, and then the world kind of eats away at that, all the things that happen to you that are out of your control. And yeah, I do feel like sort of when you're acting, it's kind of like you're freeing your mind up again to have that kind of imagination. I mean, I look at my son who's 3.5 when he's playing, and when he's playing, you know, whatever game with me where I'm being the tiger coming to get him or whatever,
Mm.
like he's in it. Like he's not thinking like, it's just my dad. No, he's like, so yeah, I think that's a great point you build up. I mean, kids are fantastic example of, how to, of being a good actor. And I got to work with a play a rendition of Newsies in New York, and that was really cool.
Mm.
I did a straight play, one of my first things, and I was the lead. And the night before the play, the director is like, I was like, oh, by the way, this is my first play. I'm not really I haven't acted that long. And she's like, well, you're the lead of the play. You have like 30 pages of lines here. And, it was opening night, and it was great, man. We crushed it. A few bumps, but four shows, it was, in fact, dude, acting on stage, man, that's a rush. That's a whole,
I've
man.
heard, I've heard like the stage is an actor's domain where filmmakers is a director's domain.
I would totally agree with that. And like there are similarities and there are differences. I mean, the camera is so nuanced. The camera's right here, every little
It's
movement of
very
your
engineered.
eyes. Yeah, and it's so sensitive. I'm a big guy. I've always been like kind of wild, right? And I like making
Very
people laugh.
extroverted.
Yeah. So when I'm on stage, I can show my whole body and move around and raise my voice on camera. I mean, I gotta be so steady. And for a guy with ADD, a lot of spilches, I call
Hmm.
it. You gotta be so steady, man. Because if you move your eye a half centimeter, the audience knows. It's like,
Right, right. How did you first start getting acclimated to memorizing lines, given that you hadn't done that before? Did it come naturally, or was it something that you really had to work for?
I had to work for it, but I'm a big history guy, so I like speeches and stuff. So like one of the
Mm.
first monologues I learned was Patton, George C. Scott from the movie Patton. If you haven't seen it or anybody hasn't seen it,
I
that's
know
my
the speech you're
favorite.
talking about. I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I think it's my favorite World War II movie. But so I don't know. I guess that history part of appreciating, I did the Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. I like you said on my Instagram, the Shakespeare. That's Henry V before the Battle of Agincourt. So that kind of, but it's a lot of repetition. Read it over and over again. Ask your friends to help you. I've I've asked random people on the train on the Metro North going into Manhattan, could you run lines with me? And they're like, you're insane.
How many
Please
of
get
them say
away from
yes to
me.
that? How many of them say yes?
I'd say about 1 out of 5, 20%.
Huh. Well, that's probably not a bad turnaround rate for New York.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really not that bad. And yeah, my wife's done with it. She's like, I've talked to so many actors about this, their spouses, husbands, wives, partners, whatever. They like want you to
They
not.
get
There's
tired
this
of it.
great Yeah, there's a great tool called We Audition, which is a fantastic resource.
I haven't heard about
Great.
that.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's a platform where actors can read for free or pay each other or tip each other to read. There are some really accomplished actors on there. I was just reading with a guy um, from I used to love that movie Accepted, that funny movie
Mm.
about going to SHIT college, and one of the funny guys in that he was reading for me, and people I've seen on TV, and it's really cool.
Mm. How did you ever struggle with maintaining mental flexibility when it came to sifting into different types of roles or doing different types of auditions?
I think, well, for me, right? Like, this is a weird world we're in. So, like, I'm a beginner actor, and although I've gotten to work on TV and film kind of quickly and on stage, people don't really know who I am. So I get all different kinds of little auditions. And like some, and it's all self tapes these days, right? Even if you want to be on Law and Order, you're going to be sent a self tape. I auditioned for the new Darren Aronofsky movie Caught Stealing with Austin Butler. I auditioned for like five different roles on that, and it was all self tape. And the thing is, so I'm getting like roles. Like I'll have to be like a funny dad in a Waffle House commercial, and then an hour later I got to try to audition to be a rapist, and then an hour later I got to be a mobster, and it's like, so that's a little hard getting through those mental states and like in out in out. As far as like if I actually book the role, like I do my thing on set, like before. I'm not a method actor, but like I do go into character a couple minutes before they say action,
You
just
keep the
so I'm
engine idling.
there. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
I see.
So
Yeah.
I was playing, um, do you know about these vertical shorts a lot of actors are doing now?
I've heard about them. Yeah, it's for like content for social media. Some like apparently there's like it seems to be that there's this trend going around. It hasn't quite hit all of my algorithm yet, so like I'm on the fence about it. I'm slightly adjacent to it because like I like the traditional movie. It's like I don't want 9 by 16. I want 16 by 9. That's what I want. But I am familiar with like there's some content getting made that's literally just kind of like soap opera type shorts. So
Exactly.
yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with it.
There's a couple apps, and dude, the numbers are pretty crazy. I heard like one of the apps is having like 80 million monthly active users on
Holy
Real
crap!
Short. Yeah, and I'm doing my third gig for them this week in like a month or a month and a half, and they're always casting me. I played Kidnapper twice, and I played a Russian, mobster. But I don't know why I'm bringing that up, but I guess because the people are really nice, and I'm like talking to this girl, and I'm gonna be her kidnapper, and I'm threatening to kill her and taking her away from her lover, and you know everybody has their different technique, right? And like it was interesting how we both kind of like, as we're getting closer to our scene together, where I'm intimidating her and threatening her, she starts getting a little quieter, a little more removed from me. I start
Mm,
getting a little quieter, looking at her, in a different light, but just not long before, just like, 10 minutes. And then, they say action, and we're like, we're not buddies anymore for those 5 minutes,
mm.
and it's kind of cool.
What's it like when especially for that particular scene when the director calls cut? Do you guys keep the engine idling a little bit, or do you snap out of it and then snap back into it?
I would say idle, because you don't know if you're going to have to go back into it, for another
Mm,
take. Sometimes, I play sometimes really bad guys, people involved in hurting people,
mm,
sexually assaulting people, saying racist things to people's faces. And that can be really uncomfortable for both me and the person on the receiving end of it. So sometimes, if I'm like unsure, I'm like, I will be like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay?
mm.
Like, this is, and 99% of the time they're like, yeah, yeah, Greg, you're
Have you
good.
had an experience where they got shaken up a little bit too much and it wasn't an okay response?
There was one scene. I mean, there's one scene where I was supposed to manhandle this like teenage girl.
Mm,
Not bad or anything. Just kind of we're just kind of wrestling, But they didn't have a proper stunt coordinator, and they didn't have, or they did, but they didn't have a mat for her to fall on.
I see.
And I don't push her, but it looks like I do, but she's just falling on her own under her own strength. And they kept doing this over and over and over. And she's a young actress, didn't want to get in anybody's way. And I kept feeling like, I was like, yo, you're falling a lot on a hardwood floor. Like, are you okay? Like, and eventually I saw in her eyes, she wasn't okay. And I was like, hey, tell me really. And she's like, no, I'm not okay. And I was like, guys, we got to cut this. This is not okay. Like, we got to get the girl a mat, talk to her, figure something out. Like, I'm not going to be a party to somebody actually getting hurt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to throw her. She threw herself. But but that was the only time. Nothing has come up of a like from a verbal, like feelings being hurt. Although
Okay.
I've had to say some pretty harsh things, and I do. If I have to say something racist, I do talk. I like to talk to the actor about it first,
Okay.
because it's just so weird, that it's such awful things, Sometimes it's weird too. People feel like hit me up all the time, be like, "Hey, I have this horrible character. You look perfect for it. It's a horrible guy," and I'm like,
That's
I'm
got
a
to feel
nice
great.
guy. Yeah, I'm a nice guy, and I'm a big teddy bear. It's like, oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe it's just acting, and I like, it brings me joy to help a filmmaker's vision come alive,
Mm.
whether that be a good guy or bad guy. Um, it's definitely more challenging to play a more layered role than just like the straight up angry guy,
Right.
Get
Right.
some get some sadness in there, some joy, some something.
What's the most layered role you've had to be able to do to date?
Oh, man, I'm trying to think. I've done so many. It's been so quick. There's been so many little things. I mean, I did a thing where I was a high school principal, or a professor, and I caught these girls cheating, but I like them and I don't want to like get them in trouble, so I give them another chance. There was working with this casting director, Paul Schnee, he casted the movie Spotlight that won the Oscar.
Mm.
He's a really awesome, amazing man. And I was doing a scene from a movie for him, and it was a firefighter who's trying to balance keeping a secret while mourning the loss of his brother, while being angry at the city and angry at terrorism, and um, you know, um,
Was
so
that
you got to
related to
keep.
your firefighter audition that you posted on the Instagram? Curiously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So that's got a couple things. I would say, as a beginning actor, I'm not gonna lie, like you're not gonna get the most complex roles, right away.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're gonna get like a lot of co-stars, supporting roles, the bartender, the cop, the this, the that, where you're kind of pretty one or two dimensional,
Mm.
as you get more, if you do some student films, which are great. I've worked with a lot of amazing students, then you can get one. I'm doing an upcoming role where I'm a coach, a basketball coach, and I'm secretly sexually abusing one of the players, a teenage boy, and that has some different parts to it, because in front of the team I'm all rah rah, and with him I'm a little quieter. People
Right.
can't figure out why I particularly like this kid, think he's so great, this and that. It's a little nuanced. So that's cool. I do a lot of bad guy roles where like I lure in people like
Mm-hmm.
nicely, and then I have bad intentions. So
I
there's some of
see.
that.
What's the biggest differences that you've noticed for indie films versus SAG and union roles in terms of like
Yeah.
set production as well as set culture as well as the roles that you're playing?
I do like that. I mean, indie non-union films, like indie films can be union, but indie films that are like completely like non-union, uh, there really aren't any rules, which can be good or bad, you know. But sometimes it can get really messy, and the actors can be working a super long time, and everybody's tired, and there's not a proper shot list, and this and that. You know, most SAG productions, especially on the feature level or TV theatrical contract level, like it's very well organized. I mean, these people, that's one of the things I love about acting is it's so collaborative. You know,
Mm.
when you're on a movie set, it's like, you know, when you play football, if somebody misses their block, the whole play falls apart.
Yep.
When you
I
shoot
can
a
attest to
movie,
that.
yeah, when you shoot a movie, you know everybody's got a job and everybody's job is important. And you know, I know I'm a nobody, right? But like I've gotten to be the principal actor a few times, and you have your own changing room and this, and like some guy will get you a coffee. But like it's like no, dude, you treat everybody with respect. Everybody is equal. We are a team. We are here to do something together. Nobody's no better than anybody. The actor's not more important than the grip. The cameraman's not more important than the PA. You know, we are all here to respect each other and work hard. And so, very collaborative experience. And if everybody's not doing their job, the whole thing falls apart. But I've had good experiences on very low budget things and big budget things. I mean, I was on the set when they were filming the Joker Folle Deux in New York City. There were 750 background actors from 4 in the morning until 7:30 at night, 2 days in a row. They spent tens of millions of dollars in 48 hours. It was crazy.
Wow. What's it? Honestly, I think extras get it the worst. They get the worst hand in the bag because like they'd have the smallest roles, they have the longest hours, and they're expected to do the same thing over and over again. Typically, what was it like, particularly on that one? Because I saw that was that was on your IMDb. I was actually going to bring that up because it was curious about it. When the director calls cut, and then you suddenly have all of these people just standing by. What's going on in the crowd between all the people who are just like, yeah, we're just here to kind of we want to be in a big movie, It's like, what happens when calls cut when the director calls cut in a big crowd like that?
That's interesting because there's so many different characters and it's hundreds of people. You
A
know, a
lot of
lot of it's
aspiring actors.
yeah, a lot of it's and there's some amazing actors there. And I've met actors and then I see them and stuff. And um, but you know, there's a lot of like, when do you think we're gonna go home? What do you think is next? Hey, when do you think Joaquin Phoenix is coming out next? Hey, Lady Gaga just waved to me. There's a lot of people hitting on each other. There's a lot of people talking about school. There's a lot of people calling their parents. There's a lot of people connecting on Instagram, trying to find acting jobs. Who's your manager? Did you get an agent yet? This,
How is that
that.
crowd managed from like a production standpoint? With because I would assume at least on that level there was multiple ads that were handling that crowd.
A lot. And to be honest, the 80s were under a lot of stress, but a lot of them, you know, were not that nice, you know, like, and like you said, like background actors have it bad. You know, it's funny. So when I did the Nike commercial, um, it all happened last minute. They called me, they put me on a plane to South Carolina, they picked me up with like a limo at my house, all this stuff, which like is totally like, my wife thought it was a scam. And I get down there, I get to set and I like text, whoever casted me or whatever, hey, I'm on set. And they're like, great. They come looking for me and they can't find me. And then they find me in background holding, which they used to call extras, but now it's called background, I think is the more politically correct term. So the guy's like, hey, what are you doing here? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you have a trailer, bro. You have like a dressing room. Like you're the guy. And I was like, oh, you know, and so that was they took me out of the background actors and like put me in my dressing room and stuff. Um, but like I just wanted to hang out. Yeah, dude, background actors have it hard, man. They work really long days. They get not such great food all the time. Sometimes it's good. The union ones get better than the non-union ones.
Mm.
Very long days. Not everybody talking to you is that nice. Like if I was a director or a producer or some big shot, if I ever heard one of my ADs talking disrespectfully to a background actor or treating them like a piece of meat, I would flip out. because I've heard some ADs, talk to background actors like they're furniture, you
Yeah,
know.
they're the human props.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, dude? Like, once again, we're all on a team. We're all important. We're all human. Nobody is better. And I gotta say, when I worked on that, uh, like Lady Gaga was super nice and cool with everybody, super professional, super kind, and like she like after she was done, she like thanked everybody, and she was like very nice. She walked in between all of us and stuff, like super chill. Joaquin was just strictly in character, so like
Mm.
I don't judge him, either way. He was just completely in
Yeah,
character.
he had a much bigger responsibility to be managing, other than like, set politics.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't even mean politics, just like, saying hi, this, that, being like, they tell you, hey, don't talk to the principal actor or we'll fire you and stuff, which I kind of get. But like, you know, um, I like when Denzel, he was on a talk show and he was like, come on, man. He's like, picking up garbage is hard. Going to fight in Iraq is hard. Patrolling East New York at night is hard. We're
Hmm.
acting. We're privileged to get to do this. It's an art. It's beautiful. Doesn't mean it's easy, but come on, let's
I
get
know what
real,
interview you're
people.
talking about. He says art is a luxury, and he was basically it was like a round table or something that's like that, and
Yeah.
everyone's kind of like on their pedestal, being like pontificating about all of their the works and their art. Which I get that. It's like you work hard on something, you want to be proud of it, but then he's like, everybody, you guys need to chill. We're not gods. We're not kings. People have it way harder than us. We're doing what we love for a living. you know.
Yes, and I've done what I hate for a living, and and I've seen people, and dude, like, yeah, I it's if I hear about a famous actor being mean to somebody, like I know it could just be a one-off thing, but like that really upset me. I was sitting in a movie theater in New York City, and I was like alone late at night. My wife fell asleep. I wanted to go to the movies. My girlfriend back there. I wanted to go see this movie, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. IMAX. There's only like five of us in the theater, and like two seats down from me, Gerard Butler and his two friends sit down. And after the movie, I was like, Mr. Butler, I'm sorry to bother you. Like, I just want to say, I'm a big fan. Growing up, 300, all that. Like, you're the man. And he said, thanks, man. And then I like walked away. He's like, "Hey, come back here!" Like, and he's like asking me what I thought of this movie. He was asking me all these questions about other movies. He like talked to me, and his friends were like, "Hey, Gerard, we gotta go." And he's like, "Oh, 1 second, I'm talking to this guy." He talked to me for like 15 minutes. We walked out. Like, if Gerard Butler is listening to this random podcast, you're the man, and thank you for being so nice to me.
Do you think you would have done that though if it wasn't just you and them in the theater? Like obviously the context is everything. It's like there's just these other couple guys, but if he had walked into like maybe deliberately scheduled or like booked the back of the room, if it was like a stacked theater, like there might have been a different response.
Totally, totally, and I understand that. Look, he's only human. Like, you don't want to be mobbed by a bunch of people. You know what I mean? It's just like, I guess I'm just saying, like, I I don't know. I was just listening to Javier Bardem the other day talking a podcast, and he's just like, "Look, you got you can have any technique you want. You want to stay in character, that's fine. You want me to look at you while you're doing your close up. Do you want me to, anything you need? You're fine. Like, as long as you're kind to me and everybody on set, from the PA to the background actors to the director, like all good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that's all. We're here for a short time, short and good time, not for a long time."
I want to pivot a little bit because I think a lot of questions. I think some actors, which lately has been kind of the audience of the repertoire of the podcast. A little bit more about the business side. I saw that you actually are represented by 3 or 4 different agencies in different states. How did you, if I'm correct there, how did you get into those agencies? And my perception, which maybe it's incorrect, and you can correct me on, is do they have like non-competes with other agencies or something like that, or is it more regional based on where you're at? Are you like I'm surprised that you're allowed
Okay.
to be a part of different agencies. Is there any like downsides to that as well?
So every agency and management company has their own rules. Um, and it depends if it's like SAG or non-SAG contract. But the thing is, like, I was talking to a friend of mine works at William Morris. That's where Denzel is and a lot of the other people, WME. And he doesn't even have any contracts with his clients. You know what I mean? So it's just like, hey, it's almost like a handshake thing. Like, you represent me. They shake on like the commission. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, it's gonna be, but they can fire each other whenever they want. And as far as exclusivity, um, that's up to the agent to ask you if they want that. A lot of times, yes, it's regional, right? Like, if you have one agent in New York, they don't want you to have a second agent in New York submitting you. So a lot of times, but the breakdowns are paid for by the agencies in regions, right? So a New York agent, unless they spend extra money, can't see the Atlanta, Chicago, and LA roles. So if you want to get on those shows, like a lot of the Marvel shows are filmed in, and Star Wars shows are filmed in Atlanta. So if
Hmm.
you want to be on that, you have to get somebody with the Atlanta breakdowns. And that's usually going to be an agent in Atlanta or New Orleans or the Southeast or Florida, whatever. So if you want to like cover all your bases and have an opportunity to be co-star, guest star, even sometimes multi-episode, you know, uh, reoccurring, you got to have agents in more than one place. Once you're like with the big guys like UTA, CAA, WME, they get like everything, and it's mostly offer only and like blah blah blah. But yeah, so it's a tough time, man. Most agents don't answer any emails or calls from anybody. Everybody wants a rep. There's not enough work. It is a really hard time in the acting industry right now.
Well, given the fact that work is somewhat scarce now, which I'm to contextualize, actually, it's not even just like for actors. Like I had a guy that I've known for a little bit who's a visual effects artist. He is having the worst time trying to find work. He recently lost like his big client, which was like half of his income, um, recently, and since then he's been having the hardest time to be able to find work. Being more involved professionally, even in this last 2 years that you've started, has there have you talked to anybody else about this, about what's going on in the industry behind the scenes, and like where's the origin of everything happening at for you?
Sure. So the origin from what
What's the word on the street?
well, the word on the street was survive until 25. So that was the slogan actors were saying. This is 2025 will be better. I think that is yet to be seen. But what happened was it was the streaming race bubble. That's one of the main things. So what happened was when Netflix started really heating up, and then Amazon Prime and Disney Plus and Paramount, all these, right? There
Hmm.
was a race, uh, just like when Amazon was starting selling things online, they just spent tons of money to race capturing the market. So basically, Netflix was pouring billions of dollars into production all over the country and in New York and LA to put out as many streaming series as they could and movies, get as many subscribers as possible, take over the market, right? And then other people started following suit. Now, and also to do that, they would pay crazy amounts of money to actors of all different levels, co-stars, guest stars, leading, repeating, blah, blah, blah. And it created just like anything else, just like the 2008 housing crisis or the tulip bubble or anything. It was a bubble. And that bubble burst when the amount of subscribers reached saturation. I mean, there's only X amount of people in the United States and the world.
There's only
So
so much content you can't consume. There's more content to consume now than there ever was.
yeah, yeah. And then so what happened? That bubble popped. It's like, oh no, like we are streaming. Netflix had like a quarter, several quarters ago, where their subscription rate went down for the first time like since ever starting, and yada yada, and the bubble burst, and then uh that happened, and then that kind of hit a perfect storm with COVID, and then
Mm.
everything had to shut down for COVID. Now, then after COVID, things started starting up slowly, but you had to spend tons of money and regulations on testing. So every day before going to set or the day before, you had to go get tested for COVID to be on any set for anything. You were a
Mm.
PA, you're the director, the lead actor, the background actor, you had to get tested for COVID. And there were masks and protocols and distancing. And then after, in between slash
The
after all
strike.
that, strike. First a writer's strike, then an actors and writer's strike, and then just an actor's strike. And that, so it's like, man, huge economic bubble popping from a boom that is over, COVID and two strikes. And now the industry is like, where do we go from here? And it's just a lot of people tell me it'll never be as good as it was, in the heyday of Netflix and all this, when, in the post like House of Cards becoming so successful before like everything now. But
Mm.
I don't know, man. I'm an optimistic guy, and I like everybody. People want to watch new stuff. People want to watch stuff. People want to be creative. There's also a lot of fear about AI now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, like,
That was a big part of the actors' strike is being, their likeness being used, especially in perpetuity.
yeah, even for background actors, they want to scan you. They want to do a 3D scan of you and use your image multiple times.
Mm. Yeah, that's. I was happy that that strike happened because it's like, well, if you don't head it off the pass now, in the beginning, then you might doom yourself later on. Especially with writing. As someone who's does do writing mainly at the moment, um, when it comes to at least movies that are more product and they're kind of formulaic, uh, you know, AI could replicate that very, very easily. Now, if you get more original works, it might take a little bit more prompting at this point, and then, but even once you start tweaking the prompting so much, then it becomes ironically less AI and a little bit more touchy from my perspective, but it's still, I think honestly, my perspective is that this ironically will end up AI will end up causing the very boom that people were predicting it would create a bubble for, because people want that connection and to that originality between the audience and the artist.
Yeah, yeah. I heard, there's a famous Japanese artist the other day. It was going viral on Instagram saying it's like this AI art is like the most disgusting thing he's ever
What
seen. He like
is it?
does,
The Studio Ghibli guy, something Miyazaki or something like that? Yeah,
yeah,
I think I know who you're
yeah.
talking about.
And I've heard people say, hey, it's like, why are we all working on this, like using AI to make like paintings and stuff? Why don't we use AI to do the boring stuff so we can create? Let's
Exactly.
use,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, I mean, I am happy that Honora won Best Picture. I think that relatively low budget film winning with an independent idea is a really good thing, because, as we know, the big repetitive Marvel, Star Wars, this franchise, that franchise, they're getting a little worn out. The Game of Thrones and the Harry Potter's coming back. It's like, let some independent writers make some movies. There are great
Mm-hmm.
screenplays out there. And Honora showed that people will see them and they will stream them because it's doing fantastic streaming. Like, this idea that we can only make money from the next Star Wars is ridiculous. I mean, look at what A24 does. Like, if you look at A24's
They're a good
budgets,
example. Yeah.
yeah, and their budgets versus their revenues, they do like they make better profit margins than so many of these big franchise movies with these like much lower budget projects. Like, I don't know, these big studios. I hope they start. They need to be run by people who love money, movies, not. But don't get
Freudian
me
slip there.
yes, and then also I'm also glad you said you're glad the strike happened, because like the rates, the union rates for the actors were not high enough before the strike, and they're still probably not. You know what? But it made me so mad when I think Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, I think he's a brilliant man. I really do, and a businessman. But when he was saying that he went on CNBC or whatever from Davos or one of these places and was saying actors are acting for way too much. There's no chance you're going to get this. Like, it's just not in the budget. And he said this on the same day that he was making like 50 grand every 5 minutes, and he's become a billionaire, and he's making tens and tens of millions. I mean, I think over like 120 million a year or something. I don't know. Come
Yeah,
on.
just like be a little more relatable, or a
Yeah,
little bit more empathetic.
yeah. Do you sound how does that not sound insane to you? I mean, you could buy every house in my neighborhood,
Hmm.
and have enough money for the next neighborhood for the whole. I don't even know, but like, come on, man. You're saying that I think the rate was like you work all day and you were getting like $188 or something to be a background actor. It's like he makes that between the time it takes for him to wipe his butt cheek between wipes when he takes a dookie. He's already made that money. Okay, so like, give me a break, bro.
Right. Well, given that, even though work seems to be, yeah, you've been getting, certainly a lot of opportunities lately. Maybe it's because of your, ability to do different, sorts of characters and, just that range. What, and even in this market, what would be the biggest reason you would turn down a project?
Well, I've heard certain criteria you're supposed to say yes to a project. It's got to either have, I think it all starts with P's, or it's got, or S's, but it's got to have a combination or one of either a story you like, it's got to have, or people you like the director or the writer, or the other actors, or it pays you enough to cover your bills for something, or it gives you an opportunity to explore something in yourself you've never done. If somebody says, hey, Greg, I have this horribly written project with this super boring character who's super predictable, and I'm going to pay you nothing, and it's with a bunch of people who are jerks, I'm going to turn it down,
Triple threat.
But if you say, hey, Greg, I'm an independent filmmaker. I don't have a lot of money, but like, look at this script I wrote. This character's cool. Hey, my cousin is a super talented cinematographer. He's doing this for me for like almost no money. But you look at this role and read it for me, and it's like, hell yeah, brother. Like, I want to help people. I rarely say no because I don't know. First of all, you're lucky to even get offered. I mean, it's really hard, man. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody. So how on Law and Order somebody says he went that way,
Right.
right? To Olivia Benson, he'll say, which way did he go? The guy will say he went that way. Like 3,000 people will apply to do the he went that way, and then 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 people will tape an audition for he went that way, and then maybe like a couple of people get a callback for he went that way, and then one person gets he went that way out of those original 3,000 people. So you got to turn that down? Like,
I mean, if it pays well,
yeah, it's you got to pick and choose your battles, and I'm very grateful. I do get frustrated, man. Some nights I go to bed, I'm like, am I a terrible actor? Is this dumb? Am I insane? Am I ruining my life? What am I doing? Why am I posting this thing on Instagram? I look like an idiot. Like, people are laughing at me. And Shakespeare, oh my God. But then you get a little message, you get an email that says, hey, Greg, I know you from so and so. This producer wants you to come read for this role. And you're like, me? Really? And
it's a
it's
roller
like,
coaster, isn't it?
dude, it is not for the faint of heart, man. If you're gonna try acting, please do not take things personally, even though I still do sometimes. But you are going to get told no every single day. You're not tall enough. You're not fat enough. You're not skinny enough. You're not the right voice. You're not the right hair. Going in a different direction. No, no, no. From agents, agents do not answer 99% of their cold call emails and stuff. I mean, delete, delete, delete. Okay, delete. Maybe delete.
Right.
It is a tough racket. I mean,
Mm. Well, from
yeah.
your experiences, are there any red flags that you've learned to be like identify when you're approached to do a particular project by a filmmaker?
I
This might
mean,
apply more to the indie level, to be perfectly frank.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess actors should have IMDb Pro. That's a tremendous resource, I think, for anybody in the industry. Look at IMDb Pro to see what people have done and who their reps are and who they're connected to.
Hmm.
If those things are good, then you're probably in good hands. If you can't find anything, if he said, "Hey, I worked on this movie," and there's no record of it anywhere, that's a little bit sketchy. A lot of times you don't realize till you get to set something. that has really irked me is going on small indie projects where there's no shot list,
Oh God,
because
yeah, those. Yeah, I know what
it's
you're
just
talking
like,
about.
what do we do next? It's like, bro, you got me. I'm here. I learned all these lines. I'm here for like the next 10 hours and then I'm on the next project. Like, what do you mean? Like, have this stuff. You know, you're spending all your time and money on this. Let's go. Like, have a shot list.
Do you
You
think
know
that's the
what I
most
mean?
common thing or common problem for indie films is just a lack of preparation?
I think that, I don't know. I have nothing against indie films. I mean, I love indie films. I just think, it's once you're on set, it's like it's go time. Everybody's
Hmm.
there, and we're only there for a limited time. You only have a limited amount of money. You got to be prepared. I mean, and look, I've not made my own film yet, right? So I don't want to like preach like I know what I'm talking about, but I've seen when things are not prepared and it ain't pretty.
Mm.
you know so,
Yeah.
so it's a really, like I said, really collaborative thing, and that's one of the things beautiful about it. And you need ads and camera guys and women and people to help you, and you need like it's a big production, and keeping everybody on schedule and on task, and it's
Hmm.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also, when I do these college films too, like I'm doing like I do some NYU projects and Hofstra projects and visual design, all these art schools, and I asked them, the college kids, they asked like, is there something important? I say, yeah, and let's not talk about politics on set, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're
Hmm.
so political, and I don't care if you're with me or without me. I don't care if you believe the same thing. I was like, I can't, like, I
It's
can't
that
play
college
some.
urge to be able to make that one project that makes a statement. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's it's that
yeah,
art.
yeah.
It's that art major coming out.
Yeah, and that's fine if you want to make a statement. It's your project. Just like I just don't want to argue about, this president, the last president, the
Right.
wars
Yeah.
going around in the world. I'm like, dude, like right now, if you want me to be a good actor in your thing, like I gotta focus.
Yeah, I feel that. Um, After like a busy work schedule, and then things die down a little bit, how do you decompress to be able to reset your mindset?
I hate decompressing.
Oh,
I
you hate
hate not
decompressing.
having work. I feel like I'm like panicking. I'm never gonna work again, and I get kind of depressed. So first of all, being a father, I'm very fortunate because your kids love you unconditionally when they're little, at least until they're teenagers, and then they hate you apparently.
All right.
And I just give them a big hug and spend time with them, and they keep me grounded. But then um, I take a lot of acting classes, and I take a lot of casting director classes, and do a lot of acting networking, and um, I memorize monologues. Like, you gotta practice. It's an instrument. Acting.
You
This
don't
is
want to
your
run cold.
instrument. Yeah, no, man. I mean, and you can go to acting classes in Manhattan and see some famous actors like doing their shit. And I've practiced with actors who have big things on TV. Because um, yeah, man, you can't can't go cold. And
Hmm.
I love acting for the sake of acting. Ethan Hawke said, if you're an actor and you're not comfortable with just not being successful as an actor every day, one day, forever,
Hmm.
just ending up a high school drama teacher or a middle school drama teacher, you shouldn't be acting, because you're supposed to be acting for the love of acting, not to get famous, not to do this. Now he's Ethan Hawke saying that, so it's
Sure.
kind of like, all right, Ethan Hawke, who's one of my favorite actors too. But like, I also have a dog that looks like Ethan Hawke. A lot of people say that. Um,
That's
but
funny.
yeah, but he's right in a way, man. Like, I do. When I'm in acting class with other actors, even if somebody says get up there and improv, I'm feeling great, man. It's a natural high. It's a good buzz.
Hmm. What project do you have that is yet to come out for you that you're most excited to see?
Well, I got an Arizona iced tea commercial that's supposed to come out in April, which is like 2 days.
Okay.
That's about their new Arizona land, which is like their huge place in New Jersey where they have their factory and their railroad station and all this stuff. And I'm playing like a kind of a funny young version of Mr. Voltaggio, I think his name. He's the founder of Arizona iced tea.
Hmm.
And that should be good. And then filming a bunch of shorts. I did a short with this kid named Adrian Hare, and I played a bad guy, like a sort of, it's a sort of a fantastical horror thing where this kid is dressed like, this guy's dressed like a kid and he's looking for his mommy. I'm sort of this homeless, creepy, beat up guy who's trying to lure him, and take away his kid's book. I'm excited to see that. Yeah, you just never know what's gonna happen, man. I like hear nothing, and then I get a pop up. It'll be like, FBI on CBS wants you to audition for this. It's like, okay, you never know what's gonna happen. It's hard though, man. It is frustrating.
Is there anything, even despite the current climate of the art culture and the industry, that you're looking forward to that maybe some other people might not be?
I mean, I guess like I said to you, the Honora thing gave me hope. And just like my friend, that guy I mentioned, the agent at WME, his name's Ben Schimmel.
Hmm.
I'd like to say, Schimmel, if you're listening, you're really not that cool, even though you think you are. He represents some of the biggest, huge comedians, SNL and stuff. And he told me, Greg, one thing about this business is if you stick it out long enough, if you are actually really good, you will get at least one moment to shine.
Hmm.
Like the cream of the crop will come. Just like Steve Martin said, you want advice? Best advice, be so good they can't ignore you. So
Hmm.
I think that the thing is sticking it out. It might take 20 years for you to get something. I mean, and also people acting careers are so different. I mean, Christoph Waltz started in opera, and then he was in these European things in the 70s, and then Willem Dafoe was prancing around Europe in these small play groups. Samuel L. Jackson was in trouble in his youth, and then was like acting at age like 37, and so Morgan Freeman later in life. So it's a long journey, man. You don't know what's going to happen. You just can't. You guys don't quit before the miracle.
Are you planning to stick it out
Everything I do is one day at a time, man.
one
That's
day
all
at a
I
time?
plan.
That's
One
about
day
all
at a
you can
time.
do.
That's all I do, man. One day at a time. But yeah, I don't plan on quitting today, and I don't plan on quitting tomorrow. But I
All
don't
right.
think much past that.
Well, Greg, it's been great getting to know you. You're a great guest. Thanks for coming on. I certainly appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave with the audience?
Thank you for having me. And final thoughts, man. Um,
Or a good joke, a good. I can go with a good joke,
Honestly, I've had a lot of up and downs, and I think just be grateful, man. Live one day at a time. Accept things you can't change. There's a thing called the Serenity Prayer. God grant
Okay.
me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think it applies to everybody for everything. It's a very good, simple prayer, and you don't have to believe in God to say it. It's just a thing. So
Who
that's how
wrote
I live
that?
my life.
I've heard that so many times. Always forget who wrote that.
I should know that, but it is a very old thing.
I
But
invited Greg on and I got Socrates, but that's all
yeah,
right. We got that.
it's definitely not Socrates, but
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
a non-denominational thing, and yeah, man, it's just be grateful, man. I mean, no matter what's happening to you, somebody's got it worse, and tomorrow's another day, and today might be your last day, and rock and roll, man.
that's so
Peace and
true.
love.
Yeah. Well, Greg, thanks for coming on. I
Of
appreciate
course,
it.
Tony. Thank you for having me. Have a great one, man.
You too.